Okay, so I'd like to introduce our next speaker. Let me put my glasses on. Thank you. I'd like to bring up my friend who's been a long-standing member to the Boston Bulldogs, Mike Goff. One of the reasons I like Mike is because every time I ask him to do something, he does it. Let me tell you something about Mike Goff. He practices that third principle of giving back. He loves the Bulldogs. He's always helping not just the organization, but the members. He shows up. He's having fun. I consider him another close friend. Let's come up. Let's give Mike Goff a great big round of applause.
Thank you, Coach. I'm just glad I'm not going to be in the car with you and Shelley on the way home. I will stick to the schedule because I know you all want to dance and hear the panel. Coach asked me to talk tonight about what the Boston Bulldogs mean to me. So I'd like to start by introducing myself, just in case I haven't talked your ear off on a long run yet. Also, much like the Boston Marathon, with the Boston Bulldogs in 2020, even with all the preparation, I'm really not sure how well this is going to go, but I do know that I'm going to finish because we've got Bulldogs in the room, and together we do. All right, maybe this won't go on time. I'm Michael Goff, and I've been part of the Boston Bulldogs since January 2016 after running in the first run for recovery a few months earlier. Sheila Cusack knew that my brother Douglas had died by suicide in March 2011 after years of living with addiction and depression. So she invited me to the run for recovery, and the Bulldogs have been a part of my life ever since. When I was thinking about what I wanted to say tonight, I thought it was likely, and apparently true, that Coach and Megan would mention the Bulldogs' 3 principles: self-leadership, transparency, and giving back. Check, check, check. So I thought I'd take a somewhat different approach and draw inspiration from Elvis Costello and Nick Lowe and talk about peace, love, and understanding. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with this classic, here's how the song starts off. As I walk through this wicked world, searching for light in the darkness of insanity, I ask myself, is all hope lost? Is there only pain and hatred and misery? And each time I feel like this inside, there's one thing I want to know. What's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Trust me, Elvis does it much better than I do. All right, so let's start with peace. After my brother Douglas died, there wasn't a lot of peace. My wife Marcia and I made a point of being very open and talking about his addiction and how he died with our family and friends, and especially with our boys Alex and Spencer, who were 14 and 10 at the time. I went back to seeing my therapist to talk about how I was feeling too. But even doing all of that, the hole left in our family's lives felt bottomless, especially when I thought about my brother Douglas's daughter Maddie, who had just turned 9. So even 4 years later, at the first run for recovery, my emotions were still very raw as we listened to the speakers during the tribute and as the tears streamed down my face when we all walked together around the track in remembrance of those we'd lost to addiction. My first regular run with the Bulldogs was on a cold January morning on the Newton Hills, and I remember running with Sheila and Liz Lawler, Craig Baker, Coach, and others. But my strongest memory of that morning was running with Sean Staunton. Even with his Bluetooth speaker blaring metal music while we ran, I remember him sharing so much about his life and his addiction. And I'm not gonna lie, it was a lot. And I remember thinking, I think Megan said this too, what have I gotten myself into? It was really scary hearing his story, especially since so much of it reminded me of Douglas's story. But I also remember feeling amazed, grateful, and honored that he shared his story and was so open with me. And after that first run, obviously I came back. And over the years of running with the Bulldogs and sharing my story and hearing your stories, I'm moving closer to peace with Douglas's life and finding peace in my life and my family's life. Principle number 2, love. I remember Megan talking at Roundup about how hard it is to make new friends as an adult, but how the Bulldogs are an exception to that reality. When I think about the new friends that I've made in recent years, the overwhelming majority are Bulldogs, and I love that I get to meet so many people, such a wide range of people, and that so many of them have become close friends. We share our lives with each other on miles and miles and miles of runs, before and after roundups, in text chats, over coffee, on car rides to and from races, and in so many ways that go well beyond what you would expect when you join a running club. And I do think that we're more than just a running club. We really are a family. I know that Bulldogs love each other in good times and bad, for better, for worse, and in sickness and in health. Although I think there's only 1 or 2 actual examples of that being licensed by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Love and close relationships should make you a better person, and I know that the Bulldogs have done that for me. Last but not least, understanding. I know I'll never fully understand addiction or why my brother Douglas took his life, or why some people have relapsed and some people haven't, or why Sean died, or why Joe Santangelo died. But I do know that being a Bulldog has brought me greater understanding. And at the risk of quoting Megan too many times, I remember something she said after Joe died that was so eye-opening for me. Despite all the peace and love I'd experienced as a Bulldog, as someone who's a Bulldog because I'm impacted by addiction, I'd felt different, maybe even unworthy of being a Bulldog. I didn't feel like I was a real Bulldog because I haven't experienced or know firsthand what it's like to live with addiction and be in recovery. And then Megan said that whether we came to the Bulldogs because we're in recovery or because we're impacted by addiction, to always remember that we are all impacted by addiction, especially when we lose someone. I have no idea why I hadn't seen that before, but it was absolutely life-changing, and I felt even closer to my Bulldogs since then. And with peace, love, and understanding comes joy. And I think that means the most to me. What better reason to come together tonight to celebrate the Bulldogs? The joy of running together and being together as we all move forward in our own ways toward wellness. So thank you, Coach, to the board, to the leadership team, and the Bulldogs for who you are and all that you do. You are what the Boston Bulldogs means to me. And speaking of spouses who are about to kill their husbands, and a very special thanks to Marcia Goff for always being there, being my Bulldogs before I was a Bulldog, for supporting me being a Bulldog, and helping me be a better husband, father, and friend.